It is part, I believe, of the wheat that... I really don't know.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is...
Morning somewhere!
For August 14th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns, sitting right over there. Nobody knows.
What?
Actually, I'll have to bleep that one, I think.
What's that? You can't just go outing me like that.
I'll have to bleep that.
Let me do it in my own time, okay?
How are you doing, Ashley?
Yeah, a bit of a shock this morning to wake up and find out.
All right. Let's stop talking about it. I'll have to bleep everything.
Well, someone is in a mood this morning, I can already tell.
I'm in a little bit of a weird mood today. Sorry, everybody. It's Wednesday. Today is Wednesday.
The
Where does that
14th
come from, the name
of August.
Wednesday? Where does Wednesday come from?
I'm pretty sure it comes from the Addams family.
I feel like everything
The day is named after the girl.
I feel like we blame a lot of our calendar on the pagans. We're always blaming those pagans. Like the pagans aren't around to
Well, they
defend
were always
themselves.
up to no good.
Yeah, right?
Dancing around maypoles and shit.
It's also like I grew up Catholic, which is the best one.
Okay,
The other ones are the bad ones. The Protestant ones are the bad ones. Are the Protestants a specific thing? Like I've never seen a Protestant church, or does Protestant mean not Catholic? Like
I think Protestant is like a break off Catholic Christianity. And this is coming
How dare they?
This is coming from someone who is not all that educated about religion, so just bear with me. But I think it's like, basically once they started things like the Church of England, and they were like, we're not going to be Catholic anymore because we want to give ourselves divorces or whatever that was. That's when they start being Protestant. They were, you know what? They're protesting and shit.
Oh, they're Protestants.
They're Protestants.
Is that what they are? Oh, so like Episcopalian, Baptist, is that all Protestant?
I assume they're all Protestant.
Really, like one big bucket?
I think so.
Or as we call them in Catholicism, pagans. No good Nicks. Get out of here, you guys. With your slightly different religion. Hey, let's have a war over the same God. How many times has that happened in history?
A lot. Keeps going. Keeps on going. We'll always keep going.
The same God. Like I've never heard of the Muslims going after the Buddhists, right? I'm sure it happens somewhere in the world where there's some like territorial thing where they come up against each other, It's just like, but you think that the people who have dramatically different gods, like the Christians and the Hindus, would go at it like nonstop. But it's not. It's all the people with the same gods that are fighting all the time.
Right. Over like which version of their specific God is best God.
Right. Or where do our prophets stop? Like, this is the line, no more prophets. It's like, well, we got one more. It's like, well, fuck you forever.
You know what?
All right, we're way off on a tangent
And already
today.
getting ourselves into way too much trouble. But this does have something to do with current events, a little bit, sort of. Intolerances do anyway. And that is that so last year there was a lady who, she died of an anaphylactic reaction after eating at a restaurant in a Disney park. And her husband lodged a wrongful death lawsuit against Disney for her estate. Yes, Bernie, with your hand up.
She had a severe allergy to dairy and nuts.
Yes, and she notified the server when she arrived. They said, yes, the food will have none of that in it. She said, okay, great. She ordered a couple in ridiculously healthy options, by the way, like vegan versions of all kinds of stuff. This is a lady who's clearly used to working around menus. She later that day had an anaphylactic.
She herself was a doctor at NYU.
Yes, she was. She had an anaphylactic reaction, used an EpiPen, and then was taken to the hospital, and she died there. Her husband has filed a wrongful death suit against Disney because they did not, in fact, make sure that there was nothing in the food. And
so far, this sounds like a totally normal story. Get ready, everybody. It's about to take a wild left turn.
Left turn. Guess what? The man had signed up for a Disney Plus free trial for 1 month in 2019, and now Disney's saying he can never sue them.
Because in the end user licensing agreement for Disney Plus's free trial, for their streaming service to watch movies says that he can't sue them, that he agreed to arbitration with any disputes he has with Disney.
Right. So this is like
Jesus
this
Christ.
actually this gives me flashbacks a little bit. Last year, McDonald's updated the terms and conditions in their mobile app, saying that if you have the app installed, if you keep it installed, basically, if you open the app, you don't have to place an order even, but if you have the app, if you've got it installed, that you can never sue them for anything.
You have to go to arbitration.
Arbitration only. And that's the Disney thing as well. It's
Can't go
like
to court.
they all go arbitration. So the difference being, as I understand it, I am not a lawyer, that arbitration means that you basically go to like one guy and go, here's our side, and they go, here's our side. And then that one guy says, here's what's going to happen. Whereas what the lawsuits often seek to do is have a lawsuit with a jury, which will decide the outcome.
You could
So-
also have a court case with just a judge as well. That's also possible. You don't necessarily need to have a jury for everything, but arbitration is, yes, it's like a private court, essentially, where you have a glorified consultant.
Right. And I have to say, the fact that pretty much every major company in the world seeks to force arbitration as much as they possibly can is kind of an indication that it might not be entirely fair.
Well, also, I also, though, I'm not 100% against arbitration. I don't know if everybody's grievance in the world should go to a court. And I think there should be an outlet at the end of arbitration of like, we can't reach an agreement, we're going to court. Like, go to arbitration first, yeah, as long as you don't run out of money doing that.
But that's the thing, right? Is
Right.
the companies can afford to run pretty much anybody out of money.
I just like, I get it too. I get that a lawyer's got to try to win the case on behalf of his client. I just wonder sometimes how, as a human, you can stand up in a court and say something like, because they signed, and this is even more confusing. It gets more layered because the husband who is suing signed up for the trial.
Right. The lady who died, his wife, did
not. So she didn't waive her right to sue, but she died. So he is suing on behalf of her estate. So his argument is why he should even have to argue this, I don't know. But his argument, his legal team is arguing that he is acting as an agent on behalf of her estate. And so what he does as an agent on behalf of her estate doesn't waive her rights, essentially, or her estate's rights in order to have some kind of remuneration for this.
Right.
If they're guilty of it, which hasn't even been established yet. They're just trying to get the whole thing thrown out by the fact that he signed up for a goddamn app.
For a streaming trial, like years before this would have happened.
Yeah.
Like her estate didn't exist when he had this streaming trial, right?
Yeah, and you see these things all the time. Like even there was also, he had an app he used to buy tickets, which seems way more relevant to me because you're actually you're making an agreement when you buy tickets to go into the park. I don't know if a restaurant within a park has the same liability of when you're going to an amusement park. Those are two different things to me. But you see these signs everywhere. You go to park a car, it says, we're not responsible for stuff in your car. That's on you. You see all those disclaimers everywhere. I really don't know how well those things hold up.
Yeah. But I will say that one thing that I like about where we are in the UK is that I find that this kind of situation seems less likely. Every single time we go to a restaurant, we don't say anything. The server always says, "Are there any like sensitivities or allergies?" Always. That's like one of the first thing the server says when they sit you down. It's like before they ask you if you'd like some water. Thank you very much. It's one of the very first things. And also when we buy things at the store, any allergen is in bold in the ingredients list. Maybe it is in the US now as well, and it could be one of those things that's just come up in the last few years that we're only seeing because it's recent, but it's actually everywhere. I never know what's a cultural thing and what's just a new thing.
Right, exactly. Especially because the time we moved here was during COVID, so
A lot of
much of
things
the
were
world
changing.
changed. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a tricky situation because I feel for this lady. She did everything that she felt like she should do. She informed the staff. They assured her that there would be nothing in it. She didn't do anything wrong. I feel like her husband didn't do anything wrong by having a Disney Plus streaming demo years earlier.
Yeah.
It's just kind of wild to me. And I feel like this would make something like those terms and conditions unenforceable. How do you bar someone from suing you for wrongful conduct when you have so many branches of the company and subsidiaries and different lines of business.
Right. Like you went to go see the third Iron Man movie, therefore you can't ever sue us because look at the back of your ticket.
Right.
Look what it said there, you know?
It's crazy.
And I have to say too, you're saying this is what definitely happened too. We don't actually know what happened because any of the articles I've read, they don't actually say what was the allergen that she died from. Like she got a vegan meal. That to me, when you say vegan, the dairy's out of it entirely at that point. But there could be nuts in a vegan meal, but they don't really know it and they didn't really have it. And also someone who's got a deadly milk and nut allergy. At what point are people responsible for making sure that that person is safe? I mean, if you're going to go out and eat in a public restaurant where people are having all these other dishes that contain all these other ingredients and you have an allergy to the severity where you could die from this, you know, what is the responsibility of the park to be able to maintain your safety? But that's what you go to court to figure out. That's why you go to court, you present the case, and they tell you, yes, they were responsible, or no, they were not. Just being sued or just going to court is not the end of the road. It's the beginning of it.
Sure, I would agree with that. You know, and it's just a tricky thing.
I feel like getting sued is like mugshots. Once people hear someone's getting sued, they're like, "Oh, they killed this woman," you know, or like when someone sees a mugshot,
guilty by a mugshot.
I get mugshots. I get it. I get why they need it. I get why they have to be public information. But I think all those rules were made before we had this global network of sharing information where stuff just lives forever. You know,
right? And it's like you may be found innocent in a court of law, but the court of public opinion, nah.
No, not gonna happen.
No, you were guilty the moment that mugshot went online.
Yeah, yeah. That's like when the waitress. By the way, when any of the wait staff comes up to you at a restaurant or a pub and asks you if you have any intolerances, and then get your order, that's the last question they ask you. Basically, we say they ask that to you everywhere you go. It's also one of the only questions they ask you, and then they disappear forever. It's not like in America where they're hanging out like they're your friend. Going,
they're just waiting for you to take the first big bite. And so you've got your mouth full and they go, everything okay?
Do you like your food? Do you like this? Do you like
everything okay? Can I get you anything?
There was...
When you can't possibly say yes, you just go, and then...
I probably have said who this is before, but I won't say their name now because I won't out them. But somebody I worked with for a really long time, whenever we'd go out and eat, whenever that person ordered a steak in particular, there's a thing they do in America, and I don't know why they do it. They have you cut into your steak to make sure it's cooked to your liking. Have you ever been to a place where they have you do that?
Yes.
Like the waiter stands there and watches you do it. He's very insulted by that. I think I'm projecting a little bit that he's insulted, but he refuses to do it. He goes, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'll let you know if there's something wrong with it, but I'm not going to sit here and cut into my steak.
And just so that you can like get proof of acceptance or something like that.
That's on you at this point.
It's like, I'm not going to watch you unwrap it.
Also, he signed up for the Omaha Steak streaming service like 5 years ago.
So it's all out.
He's got to go to arbitration. Anyway.
Well, speaking of legal kerfuffles, I'm not sure if we mentioned this previously. Oh, I think we did discuss it.
Actually, before we go any further, do you have any intolerances that we should know about?
Yes. The incorrect uses of there, and there.
Oh, I don't want to derail us. But there's actually a big grammar debate taking place right now.
Oh, grammar. Do
you want to talk about your story?
Is this about the Oxford comma?
No, it's about the possessive S in English, where we add apostrophe S to someone's name if we're showing a possession of the object in that sentence.
Okay.
The question arises, Ashley, if the person's name ends in an S,
like Burns,
as Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris, do you put an apostrophe S afterwards? Or alternatively, do you just put the apostrophe?
Let me put it this way, Bernie. I believe that S names have the same rights as all other names. We're all equal here. And that we should be allowed an apostrophe S. It doesn't roll off the tongue. Burns's doesn't roll off the tongue, but it is, in my opinion, grammatically correct.
So, growing up,
let's say UAP style.
Most of your school, like early school, took place before the internet, right?
Yes.
What year did you graduate high school? Do you want to say this? What year you graduated?
2000.
And I would say pre-internet is before. What year is internet for you? Go.
95.
I'd say 95 as well. if you were educated about basic grammar or basic anything before the internet, I think everyone has in their life a teacher, like an elementary school teacher, middle school teacher, who just got something wrong and told you it with confidence, and then you just that's what you believed for the rest of your life, because who was going to correct you at any point in time?
Right. They're like, what are you going to do? Go look it up?
Right. I'm going to go look at the encyclopedia. I'm going to bust out the AP style guide from the public library.
Too much sex. It's been banned from school libraries.
Yeah, the AP style guide gets kind of racy. But the rule I learned is the only time you use just an apostrophe and no S. I hope Becca Fraser's listening to this podcast, by the way. She's my grammar go-to. You use an apostrophe by itself when it's an S at the end of the word because the word is plural.
Okay. So
the hippo's ball. Hippos would just be a S apostrophe, right?
Okay. Yeah,
Right?
that does sound right, because I do know there is some scenario in which you use S apostrophe nothing.
But like Burns, that's my last name. And this is important to me because I had to know it growing up. I wondered this too. Sorry, I'm so deep on tangents here. I knew a guy. His last name was Cooperstein. You know him as well.
Yes,
and
I do.
We were working with him at the time that the Bernstein Bears, like, what do they call it? Mandela effect was taking place.
Yep.
That, if you're not familiar with this for any reason, we all grew up reading these books called the Bernstein Bears in America. That was a popular children's book.
Yeah, it was a family of bears, and it was like a lot of the, those paperback square books that you would get. They're like very cheap, very easy. You could read one easy bedtime story, and they would go through all of the stuff that kids need to learn, the life lessons and morals and all that stuff. And each in these self-contained books, they're very popular, very easy.
And then at some point in like the early 2000s, it was revealed that the name of these books was not Bernstein Bears. It was the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah.
And everyone collectively remembers that differently. What always shocked me is, where are the kids named Bernstein who knew, like, they would say, that's not my name on there. Like, there are people in the world named Bernstein, and they would have known if it was spelled differently. Those people would remember better than anybody.
Not anymore, Bernie. They all got sucked into an alternate timeline.
Excuse me, and where are all the people named Berenstain? Anyway, so growing up with the last name S that ends in S, I learned that it was apostrophe S. So Harris's VP candidate, Tim Walz,
Yep.
you would Walz, excuse me.
Or
I added the T.
Burns's pet chicken.
You would just say S apostrophe S.
Yes.
That's it. That's the hill I'm dying on. I'm
Okay.
done.
So backing this up to legal troubles.
There we go.
We're talking about Google. And Google's is. It's apostrophe. It's an apostrophe S, by the way. And here's another one. The Department of Justice's. Let's see what I did there. They have a couple of options.
That doesn't end in S.
Has a couple of options. Last week, they ruled that the Google acted in a monopolistic nature, getting their getting their search engine to be as prominent and as dominant as it is, and they are weighing their options for correcting that. Couple of things that they're weighing are very interesting. They may be forced to spin off Android. They're looking at a sale of AdWords, their search ad program, divestment of the Chrome web browser, a couple of different things to kind of break up a couple bits of the dominant Google search engine, which is very, very interesting.
Did any parts of Microsoft ever get broken up for as many times as they went up against antitrust? Did they ever get anything broken up?
Not technically. They've had to do a couple of things.
Because the browser still comes with the OS.
It does, but I think there was some weird thing about the browser. They made it dominant by installing it with the OS. That didn't change. They just had to tweak some things to make it easier to install other browsers. It was because the thing is, you need a browser to get the other browsers, right?
Do you need a browser? I don't know. This day and age, do you need that? You have to have it. Just do all the apps for everything. Sign away your rights.
Kind of need a browser, otherwise I'm gonna have to sign a EULA and never be able to sue.
Arbitration forever. Arbitration all the way down. So what do you think about this? Because it feels like now we're in the part of the cycle where we're now looking at breaking companies up after a long cycle of just consolidation and coming together for all these different brands and companies.
Well, you get things like this where you've got, McDonald's is forcing arbitration, and how many things does McDonald's own? quite more than you'd think. Disney is
But
forcing
no, why? What do they own?
food and restaurants.
Okay.
Disney is seeking, this dismissal, which in my opinion should validate like the entire, like that should be completely unenforceable. If
We should
they're-
all
if it's-
uninstall Disney Plus. Honestly, if we had any fucking backbone, if we had any backbone in this country, we'd all uninstall. Anytime a company tried to do this kind of thing, we just uninstall all their apps. And I don't understand to this day, Ashley, with everything going on in the world, not being able to afford homes, why isn't Airbnb the most reviled service out there? Like, I've never heard anyone say, you're using Airbnb? How dare you?
Because it's convenient, Bernie.
Right, 'cause
Or
it's-
and until it stops being convenient. But there are a lot of crackdowns happening. I think Spain is one of the big places that's starting to crack down on the existence of Airbnbs across the board because Airbnbs drive up housing costs and things like that. But Bernie, it's so convenient for a holiday, except it's getting less convenient, which I think is why you are seeing more people be upset with it, because now there's like more and more fees, and now it's not cheaper than a hotel anymore. So really, what benefit is it to the consumers who are basically renting the
It
places?
is getting shittier. It
And
used
if
to be
it is
better.
shittier,
Yeah.
then people are more than happy to be upset.
Like
But while it's
anytime I've stayed
convenient-
somewhere and they hit me with a convenience fee and then they hit me with like $120 cleaning fee, it's like, get the fuck out of here.
right after they also were
That's
like
like a whole
also
extra day.
Also, you need to take all the sheets off the bed and wash everything, but somehow still you have to pay the cleaning fee. Yes, so that's why I think you're starting to see the sentiment turn at Airbnb, but it's not there yet.
I'm gonna ask you. I love doing this. I love
no.
finding out like what are people's like in their head what a thing costs. And it's usually based on their age and how long they've done it or whatever. What does a night in a hotel cost? Go
$200.
$200. Wow. Okay, I would say $110.
$110. Well, that
It's not
depends.
true anymore, but that's in my head. If it's more than $110, I'm like, what in the world? What am I paying for?
No, I've had to book
Taj Mahal?
I've had to book way too many hotels for business over the decades, so 200 is where I'm at.
$200 for a hotel.
Yep.
I remember when like you could Motel 6 for like $20 a night.
Oh, what's Motel 6 now? I want to know.
Yeah. We could be going down like road trips with my parents and we could stay at Motel 6 for $20.
We stayed at them constantly. In fact, do you remember when we moved me from San Francisco to Texas? We stayed in like a Motel 6 type place overnight, and
You don't
I was,
need to tell people
I was
everything, Ashley.
So I was
you can
so
keep
excited
things to yourself.
because it was just over the Texas border, and I got to wake up and have Texas shaped waffles.
Yeah.
and that's how I knew I'd arrived.
Yeah. The how many mornings have you spent in some shitty like La Quinta when you're on business travel or something like that and had that like sad hotel lobby breakfast? You're just in that sad like area off to the side of the front desk, eating your waffle, eating your like cereal out of the tub where you peel the top off of it. Yeah, it's a glorious life travel for business.
It is, but it's also affordable. The Motel 6 Woodlands, California, Sacramento Airport is 54 British pounds a night.
54 British pounds. That'd be about 70 bones US. Holy cow. Okay. $70 to stay in the Motel 6.
But a continental breakfast, Bernie. Don't knock the
Do
continent.
they call them motels in the UK? I feel like they'd have some other name.
Well, what is motel versus hotel to you? For me, motel means that there's a walkway that's outdoors. The rooms,
The door to your room faces the outside.
yes.
That's basically it for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a hotel is nice because you go inside and all the doors face the inside of some big building. A motel is just like, no, it's like an apartment, like a rented apartment, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And condos would be like, condos would be facing on the inside. They'd be facing on the inside. Okay. Hey, while we're talking about all this,
Yeah.
and Motel 6, completely unrelated to Motel 6 and the quality of their establishments.
Yep.
Did you read about the American Airlines flight that got diverted and why it got diverted?
I did, and I thought that would give
Unrelated
you
to
the
any discussion.
heebie-jeebies that they had to make an emergency landing because of a case of lice on board.
That some passengers saw a woman who was traveling, I guess, in front of them, in the row in front of them, and they saw lice in her hair. And if you've ever seen that before or seen videos of that, that can be a really disturbing thing to see. And so they diverted the flight. They wouldn't say why, which I get why they wouldn't say why, right?
Well, you don't want to cause the panic on board, but they did.
Well, it's also a privacy thing, I think, too. Like,
you don't like name and shame. You're like, that person over there has lice.
Right.
But once they did get passengers off, they had to do like a full deep clean on the plane. Apparently they've got procedures for this because they have to be ready to handle things like bed bugs as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, I guess they would. There was like a bed bug mania a few years ago, and I guess we're beyond that at this point.
There was a big bed bug mania last summer. I want to say it was centered around France as well.
Yeah. Oh, right. JD kind of like
he was
went
worried
through
about that.
Like
yeah.
JD came back from a trip to Europe and just as a precaution dumped all of his clothes on his last stop so that he wouldn't bring him back through because he had been through France during this huge bed bug scare and stayed in a hostel.
Yeah.
And was scared of bed bugs. Yeah. Crazy.
Bugs,
Crazy.
Man, they're international travelers. What can you say?
It's one of those things too. It's like even just talking about this, listening to a podcast and you're not on a plane and you're not even on that flight.
Start looking at the heads.
You're probably
nearby.
starting to like feel the itchy buggies.
Look at everybody around you. Look at their heads. Look at their heads. Make sure they're clean.
Have you ever had to deal with anything like that? Like there was a lice outbreak in your school or anything like that?
No, I've never had lice.
No, me neither.
I mean, I know that, kids got lice, and I know
Right.
about things like lice combs and things.
It's really different now. Like they have the combs and they have these shampoos and everything. When I was a kid, you were basically like livestock and they would just shave your head. Was that what they did in your school too? They shave your head?
I mean, I know that was a thing. I never, thankfully, had my head shaved over lice. I would be so mad.
We went to this livestock show this last weekend. It was in a town in Scotland called Keith. We went to the Keith show. And one of the big events, you couldn't get close to this. It was packed.
The audience was just like jammed in there.
Was the speed shearing, where they were shearing sheep as fast as they could. It was
And
competition.
It was amazing.
It was pretty amazing. I'll use one of my still frames from that'll be the thumbnail for today. We use one of the Keith show sheeps to be speed sheared.
What's happened to us? We used to be so cool, and now
We really did.
We're really excited. We're like, did you see how fast he sheared that sheep?
Wow, he did a great job. Look at that. The announcer's like, and the hard work's over now. There he goes, cleaning up. That's great.
We're
They've all got that same announcer voice they have in every country, in every dialect.
we're walking through the tents to see which gooseberries won best of show.
I didn't get in the competition tent because I was busy with the kids. But you and JD both got to go through the competition tent. They have
I will say there were some
Best
particularly
egg?
nice looking duck eggs.
best duck eggs, best like they crack an egg in a bowl.
I think I know why that is, and that's because there's three parts of the egg. There's the yolk, and then there's the thick part, like the viscous part of the egg white, and then there's like a kind of runny part. If you get into poaching eggs, it's often advised you to crack an egg into a strainer because it will then drain off the watery bit. And then you poach the rest of the egg. And so I suspect they crack the eggs to see how much watery bit there is, because that may determine sort of the freshness and healthiness of the egg.
Here is my recommendation for making yourself, for the rest of your life, the best poached egg. Ready?
Ready.
Here's my solution. Don't eat poached eggs. You'll never fucking figure it out.
I'm working on it,
You'll never be good at it.
The science,
Don't do it.
I'm going to crack this egg, Bernie. I'm going to get there. I'm so close. I can feel it.
You reach a point in your life where you go to some nice fancy restaurant that's not a Motel 6. It's like a Motel 8. Super restaurant. You get yourself a poached egg and you're like, oh, wow, this is like the perfect way to get an egg. This is lovely. And then you think, I'm going to eat poached eggs for the rest of my life. And then you try to make poached eggs and you regret that decision forever
and
ever.
They're like thready, weird, goopy messes. It's a tough thing.
That's why they ask me, they say, do you have any intolerances? I go, yes, I don't want to make any
Poached eggs.
Get out of here.
Well, on that note, I would like to thank today's sponsors, Daniel L. and Alice, the healthiest eggs we could find, for sponsoring this episode at patreon.com/morningsomewhere. Thank you both so much.
You are the thick, viscous part of our business as it operates. Thank you very much. All right, well, that does it for us today, August 14th, 2024. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you will be here as well.
Bye, everybody.